Conor, thank you so much for making the time. Really excited for this chat. Have been for quite a while. I love that you're on the pad, getting the steps in. Fantastic. And yeah, pumped to get into this.
Yeah, happy to be here. Sorry if it's a little bit distracting that I'm up and down, but 30 plus, got to get the steps in at any moment.
Not at all. Not at all. I love it. And fantastic. Well, look, let's just dive right into it and give us maybe a little bit about kind of background, where you grew up, what life was like. Give us a sense of Conor as a young guy and how things kind of went then into your teenage years.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a strange background story because I don't have your general, let's say, what you'd expect from a finance nerd sort of background. So, grew up in East London back when East London wasn't the cool place to grow up, but now it's very cool. And I trained to be free runner / gymnast / acrobat, and that was sort of my childhood going into teenage years. Then my dad was like, mate, you ain't doing that. Come on, get off it. Like, you can't be doing that. You got to get into IT like me, or you at least got to go to university. So I was like, listen, Dad, I want to be a stuntman. And he was like, don't be ridiculous, but you can do that, but you can also go to uni. So I went to uni. I studied multimedia design, which was a blessing and a curse, but the multimedia design came in clutch later on. But I continued to do the stunt work and the acrobatic work while going to university. Started working as an acrobat for a few years while the whole university thing was going. Then I actually became a stuntman, and then I did a job, and then I bought Bitcoin, and then now I'm here.
Absolutely amazing. I have to bring it back to I'm fascinated by the acrobatics and the stuntman stuff. Like, when you're starting as a kid and a teenager, is that literally just kind of like going from messing around doing backflips with your buddies into a bit of more structured parkour, and then into like actually genuinely trying to learn as a group?
Yeah, so I mean, quite literally that. First of all, backflips in the garden, then backflips in the back of school, meet some friends who also do backflips, become backflip friends, and then think, how can we do this as more than just friends who backflip and friends who get paid to backflip? And then that's sort of the trajectory.
Escalates from there. Actually incredible. And I suppose then going into university was it in London, or was it somewhere else in the UK?
Yeah, West London.
Amazing. West London. And then at that point you were kind of making a little bit of money from acrobatics, and then you were leading into the stuntman stuff. Can you recall any TV shows or anything that you did with the stuntman career, shall we say?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you the first and the last. So the first sort of job that I did that I was excited about, well, was a show called Misfits. I'm pretty sure it was called Misfits. It was superheroes, but in England.
Yeah, Channel 4.
That was one of the first things I did. And then the very last job, and to be fair, I'm still technically a qualified stuntman. So, if Bitcoin goes to zero, that is the backup. It used to be, stunts used to be the backup for university. Now stunts is the backup for like magical internet beams. But the last job was House of Dragons. So the second half of, not is it Game of Thrones? Yeah. The second half of Game of Thrones.
Amazing. There's some serious shows. I mean, Misfits, I even, I think most people who would have lived in the UK at the time would have known a big show on Channel 4, especially somewhat pre social media, or the plethora of options that we now have. So that's actually, that's amazing. So I guess that kind of stuntman work then, if I'm not mistaken, give us the shape of things that then brought you to Dubai, if I'm correct.
Exactly. So I think it was 2016 or so, I qualified as a stuntman, and the stuntman qualification in the UK is no easy feat. It's 5 to 10 years of training, 5 different disciplines, like elite-ish level at each of those. When I say elite, I mean, like, for example, certain criteria in high diving, like, the levels of the dives, and then coaching qualifications in rock climbing, and then, for example, dive master as a scuba diver, trampoline qualifications, gymnastics qualifications, and then kickboxing is, you have to do a martial art. So I chose kickboxing.
Incredible.
And yeah, so basically I had a choice to make. I really enjoyed the sort of live performing aspect of acrobatics and things.
Yeah.
And I had a choice, like either, because when you do stunts for films and TV, you got to be ready, you got to be free, you got to be able to
Yeah.
answer the phone. It's very much like, a freelance sort of vibe. So I was like, okay, I had done a few jobs. I'd worked in Singapore, in different Middle Eastern countries, in Dubai. And then I got a call and I was like, okay, I can do one last year job. Like we had contracts, right? I was like, I'll do one last one. I'll get that done. I was coming on to, I think I was 24 at the time. So I was like, okay, that's a good time. Like transition from the fun side of acrobatics into like the more serious stunt
Yeah.
man. This is a career path. You grow from stunt man and then, you get higher levels and then you go into coordinating and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I came to Dubai and we did a few different shows. I ended up doing a show called Dragon, which is he was one of the founders of Cirque. So it's not Cirque du Soleil, but he was a founder of Cirque and he started
Yeah.
his own shows called Dragon. And they're absolutely incredible. Anyone who's watching, if you haven't seen a Dragon show, he
Wow.
made O in Vegas, the water show, which is one of the most incredible shows. And
Yeah.
basically they're iterations of that around the world with like purpose-built theaters. So it was incredible.
Yeah.
And there was a time, early 2017, for some reason, I can never quite place the reason. I'd heard of Bitcoin. My dad had actually told me about Bitcoin, I think at the year prior, so 2016.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we were all backstage and we were all checking out Bitcoin, checking out the altcoins, and just following people on Twitter. And it was not with a really small amount of money, but nothing huge. But we all put a few $1,000s in, and we started to see, well, hold on a second, I can make my monthly salary by buying a random internet bean.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it kind of like changed the trajectory of my whole life. But I stayed.
Amazing.
The interesting thing is I stayed an acrobat and a performer 2017. I was still an acrobat 2018,
Yeah.
2019, and 2020. So I was still doing. The thing is I'm a big advocate of dollar cost averaging,
Yeah.
like over time, and that's really because I had my first run, and we'll go through all of that. But I had my first run, and then while I was still working, while I was still a performer, I was also in the background slowly siphoning, and it was a small percentage, right? It wasn't like, because people love to go all in and they like to talk about going all in, but
Yeah.
it was a small-ish percentage of what I was making. And I was just buying certain things over a long period of time and just building up that portfolio. And that's what worked really well for me while I was still, performing in this magnificent aqua show.
Absolutely amazing. I'm staggered by the level of discipline required to get the qualification for starters. Not to mention like actually executing that job on a daily, on a monthly, yearly basis. Like I suppose, do you feel like that? As much as that would have been a very like buoyant, upbeat, energizing environment, in a group of other acrobats and stunt people, obviously that requires immense discipline to even get to that stage. Like, do you feel like that habitual discipline helps you now when it comes to content creation and just showing up every single day and performing?
Yeah, I guess it's just that like my whole life has been, 6 days a week, every day training. And, I've always loved what I've done. It's never been like a hard slog. Do you know what I mean? So like now's the same. I absolutely love what I do. So, it's turning up every day and doing what you love is not a hard thing to do.
It's energizing. Totally makes sense. So talk us through that point then. I guess exposure from your dad, 2016, 2017, it sounds like as part of the kind of the group, knowledge started to talk around Bitcoin with the other guys. You obviously started chipping away with dollar cost averaging. Then I guess bringing you towards 2020. Give us those next couple of years as you were probably on the fence thinking, hold on, is there something here? Am I onto something? And if I'm not mistaken, at the same time, you had a YouTube channel from maybe 6 years prior that or so, and you'd been chipping away at that content as well. So a hell of a lot going on in that period of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was funny because as an acrobat, I always considered myself a jack of all trades. I was never like an Olympic or national level gymnast. I was never an Olympic or national level high diver. I was never, I was never the best person in the room, but I normally was, the best at the most things.
Yeah.
So like, oh, this guy was better than me at tumbling. This guy was better than me at high diving. This guy was better than me at acting, dancing, whatever. But I could do all of them, right? And that
Yeah.
was sort of so my whole life I've juggled multiple things at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's stunts, acrobatics, university, and I missed out the part where I actually started the YouTube channel in 2006. So 20 years now,
Wow.
which really shows my age. And I wasn't 0 at the time. Um, so yeah, I'd started the YouTube channel there, and I tried various different attempts
Yeah.
at making videos and staying consistent, but I didn't. I did like, you know, a month-long stint, 2 months here, 2 months there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so coming to the end of my acrobatic career, and it wasn't the choice, in fact, to end stunts and acrobatics. It was you know, situation that kind of set that path. So I had gone on holiday to Bali, and at the time, about 6 months prior to that, we were in the middle of a bear market for crypto. So yes, I had my crypto portfolio that I didn't sell. You know, the trajectory in the first bull market that I was in, $3,000 that I spoke about, $75,000, and then below my initial, which was 3,000 to 1,800, and it kind of just sat there for years. So, and then I slowly put, you know, thousands over the next 3 years I put in, right? But while that was happening, I'm like, okay, well, I have my income. Income's approximately $3,000 a month. How
Yeah.
can I make more money to do more investments? Because that's what people do, right? Save more money, do more investments. And at the time, my focus was crypto and real estate.
Yeah.
And I was wanting to buy a piece of real estate, you know, just an apartment in England. So that's sort of my goal. And I came across Amazon FBA through a conversation with a friend who was doing it from university. Just an odd offhand comment led me down the rabbit hole on YouTube about what was going on with Amazon FBA. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I could do something similar, which led me into drop shipping.
Yeah.
And then I made 6 months of losses, like, you know, so I'm taking big losses every month. Not big in comparison to the grand schemes, but at the time, I'm making $3,000, I'm losing $1,000, let's say, a month. And then I'm also putting 1,000 odd into Bitcoin a month. So, you know, I'm very much like, I'm sharing a room, I'm not eating out, I'm skimping every possible penny I can to either put it into the business at the time,
Yeah.
which was e-com, to work my job, and then also to invest into crypto. And then the old Rona Ronason hit, right? And for people who don't know, that is the CO vid, and YouTube strikes people. I don't know if they still do, but you get in trouble for saying it out loud. So I'm going to avoid saying it out loud. But we all know what happened in the old 2019, 2020 era.
Yeah.
And basically all the shows, they went down. So live theater across the world closed. I had actually resigned around that time. It just so happened that it brought that date a bit forward. I resigned because I had made a couple, I think it was like $1,000 profit for like 2 months running. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need a job anymore. I can make this by myself. You'll get stuffed. And the choice was not, however, to go, okay, I'm going fully from acrobatic stunts to now internet money, right? Ecom. It was, I'm doing ecom. I can make a little bit of money. The constant income from the live show, I no longer need, but I can go to England. I can be a stunt man, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
rely on being a stunt man. As I said earlier, it's a freelance
Yeah.
career, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, you need something to do in the meantime. So that was the meantime. But what happened was the whole world went into lockdown,
Yeah.
and I, I had, the meantime was 100% of my time. And then yeah, it was all in on the e-commerce then at that point. And that was the first time I'd made, you know, in that year, the money, incredible, absolutely unbelievable to make internet money, you know, like how, like, yes, I spent this whole year, this whole lifetime and I had a very blessed career as a stuntman and acrobat, like very different to the normal 9 to 5. But
Yeah.
I still worked for someone. I still had to go to work on time. I still
Yeah.
got reprimanded if I said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, wore the wrong thing. And now all
Yeah.
of a sudden I'm sitting, I was in Australia and I'm sitting on a computer and I'm making wild money. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. This is incredible. So that
Yeah.
was sort of the trajectory. And then suddenly I had more money to put into crypto, more money to reinvest into the business, more money to buy stocks. And that
Incredible.
was sort
Yeah.
of the fork in the road, right? And that's where my life completely split now away from the acrobatics. And then I would say the full focus on the internet.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, you really, what I love about what you shared is like you set your sights on what you wanted to do, even when you were, as you said, you were making the 3K a month, you were sharing rooms, you were budgeting for meals, you still had your eyes on investing in real estate and investing in another asset at the time, Bitcoin obviously being top of mind. So like you had the focus even at the time where maybe the capital wasn't there to deploy and therefore be able to accelerate it. So like immense vision on that. And then I guess the courage to resign when, of course, there was other stuff going on, but you had already gotten the resignation in. And then I guess from there, the discipline to get into content and show up every single day, more or less since what, early 2020, we're talking more or less now, we're, 5-6 years
Yeah.
later.
So the interesting thing with the content was it was like almost a mistake, right? So I was doing the e-commerce and, I I had spent my whole life and I had approximately saved in 12-ish years uh as a acrobat, approximately £100,000, right? And that was like obviously a huge amount of money. But and that's including the investments, like that's like sort of my
Yeah.
net worth at the time.
Yeah.
And um what happened was when I did the ecom, I made £100,000 net profit in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this Excel spreadsheet like, what the is going on? Like, there's £10,000 of profit in a month right there. There's
Yeah.
15,000 here. There's 5 there. And I was like, this is incredible. So I'm like, now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this. And then what happened was there's a term called the adpocalypse. And I don't think that actually applies to exactly what happened at this time, but it was in and around that where big fundamental things changed for the way ads were pushed
Yeah.
out. And at the time, it was the new, from my memory, and I may be completely off here, but my memory was there was a new Apple update where essentially the pixels no longer tracked people on
Yeah.
their phones.
Yeah.
And that basically blew up the way that I was finding audiences for my product, right? Anyone who does ecom will know. And so I was at this, again, another juncture in my road, a crossroad where I was like, okay, I've got the stocks, the crypto, the ecom.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind the stocks and the crypto were not passive by any stretch. Me and my mate were talking about this every day, but that's where the money was going at this point. I'm like, okay, well, I've got money. I know rich people don't save money. That's stupid according to rich people. So I need to put it somewhere. It was stocks
Yeah.
and crypto. A phenomenal time to be doing that. I always, like that was like, I don't like to say right place at the right time. I don't like to base it on luck. What I say is the right place, the right time, the right tools. And you get the right tools by being the person who shows up every day, right? So I
100%.
was lucky because I did it at the right time. But it
Yeah.
wasn't luck that it worked, right? That was the showing up and doing all these things for my whole life. But when it comes to that, we had this cross in the road. Either learn the new way that ads are going to run now without the same pixel. The pixel still exists, but learn the new way. Or I'm really enjoying stocks. I'm really enjoying crypto. I'm really enjoying kind of entrepreneurship. So maybe let's try YouTube. And at the time, I had been making various YouTube videos. There are other businesses and other cooks that I was doing in the background. For example, Instagram page flipping. I basically just juggling as much stuff as possible. So I had so much stuff that I was doing. And I was like, well, I want to know about this. So like,
Yeah.
why don't I make videos about this? And so I'd been making maybe one video a week at the time. And then I was like, okay, everyday work on the Pixel or everyday work on YouTube. So I was like, okay, I'll do one YouTube video a day for the
Yeah.
next year. So I'd done a year of ecom. that worked relatively well, but now I've got to change. So I have to basically relearn it. And it's like, it's a big change. So I was like, okay, I'll do 1 year. I'll give myself a year again, and I'll repeat the process of the year, and I'll do a
Yeah.
good video every single day, no matter how bad it is. I'll just turn up and I'll make a video every day. And so I didn't give up on the e-com until because I still had a store that was working, but it was petering out. And then I was making YouTube videos regarding how I was making money and what I was doing with it. So e-com, Instagram page flipping, like people buying ads from my Instagrams, whether it was dog toys or whatever.
Yeah.
And then where I was putting it. So stocks and crypto. And yeah, at that point, it was during the end of the sort of lockdown era. So, the big boom in e-com and all of that was dying down. And it was
Yeah.
like, the perfect time to segue into this new sort of YouTube talking about it. And yeah, that's what I did every single day until, I got to a point where it worked. And then
Absolutely.
that's the next step.
That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, one thing that screams to me from everything right back through from the point where you were learning acrobatics through to multimedia, even as your university topic choice, and then onwards into everything else you've been doing from there. And in addition to that, something that I admire massively about you is your ability to juggle multiple different things at any given time as part of your core focus. So I think that is like such a kind of a fascinating point of like your success, your career, your personality, and something that you've brought through everything that you've done. So I guess at that point, you've done a good firm year. Keep it simple, show up every single day. You've kind of come through the back of that. Can you recall at the end of kind of lockdown, and I guess was it moving into 2021 or 2022? The years tend to blend, but can you recall roughly what the sub count was and where you were in terms of kind of viewership?
Yeah. So the YouTube channel was there on the back burner since 2006. Tiny, couple of hundred.
Yeah.
Maybe I had 1,000 by that point. And the first 4 months, almost no growth. I mean, maybe I grew 1,000 in 4 months, which is actually pretty decent, but it doesn't feel like anything at the time. Like the first 1,000 is the hardest, and then 10,000 is super hard, and then 50,000. But nothing really happened for a while. And I would like, people are like, most people I know, their YouTube channels, they started new ones every time they did something new. I just use the same channel every time. Whatever it was, I just use the same channel.
Yeah.
So I was doing e-commerce videos. I was doing, top 10 ways to make money online. I was doing 10 stocks I've bought in the last day or whatever, whatever crypto I'm buying. And funnily enough, there was a website called Earth2. And this website was pre-NFT, but similar, like buying land, but not through NFTs, but buying land, right? And that was the sort of general gist. And I was making content about that. And then I found that actually worked really well. And when I say really well, I mean a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand views a day, which is, at the time, absolutely incredible. And it was about 2 or 3 months into that, and using that, like people made Discords and they had places to talk, and Discord was all completely new to me.
Yeah.
So I'd made a Discord, and we had a little chat, and it was all like a little free community. And then, there was a chat in there where people were talking about different investments they were making. And it just so happens that someone talked about crypto, and they talked about a few different cryptos, and we had a chat. And then I was like, oh, I'll make a video about different cryptos I've come across. And then that was it was about 4.5 month mark. I made that video, and then I got 12,000 views in 24 hours. And I was like, oh,
wow. Yeah.
This is it. Like, and it was like it's like, I feel like it gives me tingles. Like I can feel my hair standing up. Cause I remember I actually went scuba diving the next day. And I was driving to the place, and I remember just like refreshing the YouTube channel. And it was like, oh my God, 12,000 views, 13,000 views. Like it's happening. Like I found the thing. And then every day I just made content, every single day, YouTube video about crypto. And it took me 8 to 10 hours a day. I was scripting, researching, I couldn't talk like the way I'm riffing here. Like this is very much like something that I had to learn over time. I was always really good at being a character. I could act and remember a script really well. But when it came to being me and, knowing, that the ideas coming. So it took me a lot, like, people say now, you're like, I film a video and I barely edit it, but it used to take me 8 hours a day, full day's work. My missus used to go
Amazing.
out, she'd come back, I'd just be finishing the video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Amazing.
did that every day until that 4.5 month mark hit. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's it. This is the thing that works. So this sort of led on to my life now, which is sort of like this perfect circle, right? So I invest and I trade, and then I
Yeah.
talk about my investments and my trades. And then it's just like this. And it's like, I'm doing it, I'm living this life, and I'm talking about that life. And I'm so grateful that I get to do that. Like, it's amazing. And yeah, that's where we are
Absolutely.
now.
Amazing. No, it's so inspirational and energizing. And actually, your description of getting kind of goosebumps and tingling as that hit from 12,000 up to 13,000, I love it. I actually hadn't realized that year was a combo of more the e-com content, or initially started as that, and then you hit this from the Discord chat. Is good example of how sometimes, you had that one chat with a buddy that kind of loosely had a side note about ecom. You went down that rabbit hole. You had the nudge on the Discord group about crypto. You went down that rabbit hole. So I guess, a good example of kind of keep scanning for that bit of
It's
intuition
the
when yeah.
it's the butterfly effect. And I think, anyone who's got this far in this video, who's, crypto might not be your thing. It might be AI, it might be e-com, it might be selling a real brick and mortar coffee shop. I don't know. But like, you don't know where this journey ends up. And like, I could chalk this all down to the conversation from my friend who randomly reached out to me and told me he was doing Amazon FBA. And
Yeah.
now I'm a crypto YouTuber. But
Yeah.
the butterfly effect was from his conversation about Amazon FBA, right? And they've
Incredible.
got nothing to do with each other. But that's
Yeah.
sort of the journey and the trajectory of what happens so you just got to show up every day.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't matter if you're doing something new every day. It doesn't matter if you're trying something new. Like, it's that showing up every day. And it takes, use the YouTube as an example. It took me 15 years until it worked. Use
Yeah.
the e-com as an example. I worked a full-time job and did that. It took me a year until it worked. And it didn't, it fizzled out into nothing afterwards. Do you know what I mean? The crypto took from 2017 to 2021 before I made significant money.
Yeah.
These things didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, keep putting one foot after the other. No, incredible. And I guess then over the past few years since that point, as from that point where the views started to kick in, and then you went all in crypto, I suppose your world has expanded even further. You've traveled the world, you've built businesses, a ton of different things have happened. Maybe give us a sense of the last couple of years as well, how kind of life has it probably accelerated in some ways because of the positive success.
Yeah, so I mean, in a similar sense to how that random conversation with a friend about Amazon FBA sort of led down so many different routes, then the more successful side of business also leads down the same sort of route. So, I do the YouTube, I meet different players in the same space like Tyler Hill, and then, we founded a crypto agency, specifically a crypto influencer agency, because of like, essentially, the agencies in the space aren't bad, but they're not ran by influencers. So they don't know what influencers really want, how influencers really want to be represented. And most of all, like, it's just sort of like it's like a missing piece, right? So I had a lot of inbound leads, but I'm not going to talk about everything that comes across my desk, but maybe someone else would be interested in it. So just like creating a business, I saw that there was, that space there. Like there's a space for a business to be created. And then meeting other people, I started to invest into property. So I meet people in the property sectors. And so I'm like, oh, there's a space here for my own personal portfolio growth into property, but also building out different businesses around the property. And then, maybe different SaaS companies and ad agencies and that sort of stuff, all from the different people you meet, the different networks. So the network is created both in person and online. And having a presence, a YouTube channel, and that really gives you that sort of, that credibility that, maybe a potential business partner is looking for, and they can, learn what they need about you right there, rather than how they would normally,
The platform you've leveraged, absolutely. And I think one thing you've done so well exactly is like being both present online and also like offline, because I think there's maybe, you know, a lot of guys and girls in the space who are maybe strictly online, shall we say, and maybe don't actually get out there into the world and make real relationships as well, and build kind of different styles of businesses, like everything from, as you said, like SaaS ad agencies, creator agencies. There's a ton of different things going on, your own real estate portfolio. So I think that's like a massive kind of way that you've leveraged the platform, but all ultimately going back down to the fact that this was years in the making. It came through the discipline all the way through, from acrobatics into the stunt work, into making content around ecom because you wanted to grow your income while you were doing the stunt work, the discipline through that period, and then kind of accelerating onwards. So a really good example for anyone, whether they're already a content creator, whether they're a crypto YouTuber looking at this, wanting to hear a little bit more about your story, or someone who's just a fan of yours in general, is like, whatever you're doing, kind of keep putting one foot after the other, and who knows where it'll take you, essentially.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And that's like, I mean, that's the sort of moral of my story is, you know, if you just show up every single day, you literally never know where it's going to take you. But most people in this life, they don't do that, right? They try, they're me before the 2020 opportunity. So they do the YouTube channel. They try for a few months, it fails. They come back a few years later, it fails. They come back a few years later, it fails. But what they don't realize is if they had just done it, like when I did it for 4.5 months every single day, it worked. So it's like, that's the sacrifice, right? And it's 8 to 10 hours a day every single day, then it worked. So, you know, the best thing is, you know, the way you set yourself apart from, like, you know, the hardest time in the world right now, because we have the internet, so that you compare yourself to everyone, right? The way you set yourself apart from everyone is you just work harder. And like, everyone can do that.
100%. Incredible inspiration, because you make it look easy. And I think that's like, regardless, like we say, of whatever someone's into, whatever their hobby, vocation, interest, career route is like, put in the hard graft at the beginning and keep the reps, keep going day to day. Don't miss it. Don't miss a day, essentially, and see where the kind of the trajectory takes you. So I'm inspired by everything that you've done, and, you know, grateful to have the chance to work with you immensely. And I guess excited to have this chat again in 12 months time to see, you know, how the story continues to grow over the next years ahead. Final kind of question as we round up and wrap up is, we're now into 2026. We're racing rapidly towards 2030. Institutionalization of crypto is like at a point that was probably unbelievable or unpredictable, shall we say, to you maybe back in 2020, 2021. What's your feeling on the whole market in general over the years ahead? Does it continue to excite you just as much as when it was a little bit more Wild West a few years ago? Or what's your general sense of it?
I think it's a different market, right? I think the excitement, I don't want to say the excitement's gone. I think it's a hard thing to put your finger on, right? The excitement is changed, right? So it's gone from kind of, oh, anything crazy, meme coin, crazy coin, this can do this can do that. That excitement has now transformed over 8 years into oh, we're here. Number one, like, you know, me and my buddies, we were right. You know, 8 years ago, crypto was just like this weird joke thing that no one knew about. We were like, oh, I think this might change the world. Oh, and 8 years later, boom, the president's talking about it. There's billion-dollar companies. So like, in some ways we were right, which is a very exciting feeling. And then in other ways, it's sort of you know, where will Bitcoin be in 10 years is the excitement. Where will Ethereum be? What companies will be using this technology, right? So I do think that there will be another meme season and another, you know, alt season, because I think humans are predictable. And I think no matter how many people got destroyed, let's call it, from meme coins in the last year, they will be back and new people will be back to play, you know, the everlasting casino wars once again. And I think that's just, you know, how the market ebbs and flows. And I don't think human nature is going to change. Everyone's looking for the next thing, right? And you know, they want the sort of meme where they, you know, they feel part of a community or whatever it is. So I don't think that's going to change. I think it will change where it lies, but I don't think it's over. So there's lots of exciting things to happen. I think it's just every cycle is different. So
Yeah.
I think that itself is pretty exciting.
That keeps it exactly keeps the attention high. You're right. As humans, we're naturally gamblers, and I think it's as you've very well done, as you've taken the calculated risk over the last couple of years. You've backed yourself, which is amazingly inspiring, and also you've put in the hard yards and the reps, and that's what sometimes goes unseen by someone when they're thinking of doing something in whatever area it is and they want to be successful. So anyway, Conor, super grateful for the time. Thanks a mil for making the gap for us, and excited for this chat again in 12 months time.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it, Garvan. I'll speak to you soon.